Salvete omnes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me as we continue our coverage of Caesar's Gallic Wars. We are in Book 5, trying to make our way from Sabinus and Cotta's camp to wherever the nearest camp is. But before they can get there, they surprisingly have been ambushed by Amberix, who promised them safe passage. They've been betrayed by a Gaul? What? So, we have been ambushed. Things are looking dicey for the Romans, but not all hope is not lost. However, it's definitely looking grim. So let's pick up in section 35 of Book 5 and see how things might turn out. Spoilers, we're not going to find out today. At least not in this video. All right. Quo praecepto ab eis diligentissime observato, cum quaepiam cohors ex orbi excaserant, atque impetum fecerant, hostes velocissime refugiebant. So, when this order, or with this order, observed very diligently by them, that is, by the enemy. So, praecepto here is a noun rather than a participle. It looks like it could be a participle for an ablative absolute. We technically want observato to be the participle there. So with this precept, right, with this command, observed very diligently by them, that, in case we forgot what that command is, whenever any cohort kind of has marched out from the circle and made an attack, the enemy fled or retreated very swiftly. So the enemy does what it's told. This is their best chance at survival. They are not going to win in just a straight up fist fight, even with the Romans in a precarious situation. In a straight up fight, the Romans will win. It's just what they'll do. Interim eam partem nudare necesse erat et ablator aperto tela recipi. Meanwhile, it was necessary. So again, she's like, well, of course it's going to happen that, and we get two results of this. It was necessary that that part was exposed for nudari, like literally made nude. In the meantime, it was necessary that that part be exposed and that they receive weapons, missiles, from that exposed side, from that open side. So this is referring to the enemy, right? In a nice little circle, you can't get any, you can't attack the side of a circle, right? It's all the same. But when one part starts to kind of zoom out, you can start to kind of do some sort of kind of like pinching maneuver on them to cause problems. So that was necessary to happen, right? Yeah, you leave the circle, you become exposed. Rursus cum in eum locum unde erant egressi reverti coiperant, et ab eis qui caeserant, et ab eis qui proximi staterant, circum venie bantur. Sin autem locum tenere velent, nec virtuti locus relinque batur, nec ob tanta multitudine coniecta tela conferti vitare poterant. So, in turn, again, however you want to translate Rursus. Whenever they had begun to return into that place from which they had departed, this is referring to the Romans. Reverti is a deponent infinitive here. Revertor, reverti, reversum. So it looks like it could be passive, perhaps should be passive, but I think I've seen this verb both, it can be both active and deponent. So clearly being a deponent here. So, and cum used with an indicative is fine. Usually when you see that, you want to translate cum as like whenever. Whenever they had begun to return into the place from where they had departed, another deponent, they were being surrounded both by those who had
given way, and by those who were standing closest to them. So there's lots of people around, right? There's not a lot of room to maneuver, and those who had retreated, I think, definitely referring to the enemies here, right? You advance, they retreat, and then you start to retreat. They're going to continue to follow you, right? They're going to stay on your tail. So you're surrounded by them. You're also surrounded by the people who are standing closest to you. So I think the idea here is that their own men are kind of pinning them in, right? They don't really have anywhere to go. That's how I'm taking that. It could refer just to other enemies who just happen to be, like, maybe not retreated, but very close on either side. So, Sina altem locum tenere velent. And if, however, they wanted to hold a location, there was no location. There was not a place left for courage. And they were not able to avoid the weapons thrown by such a multitude, they having been stuffed together. So again, ultimately describing a bad situation for the Romans, right? If they wanted to kind of like maintain their location, if they wanted to hold their place, there was no place left for courage, right? They're not really leaving any space behind. And having been stuffed together, they were not able to avoid weapons thrown on the side. So they're just facing attacks. They're facing ground attacks. They're facing, arrows and spears thrown at them. It's just not good. Tamen tot incommodis conflicti multis vulneribus acceptis resistebant, et magna parte diei consumpta, cum a prime luce ad orum octavam pugnaretur, nihil quod ipsis esset indignum committebant. However, I would say afflicted. Obviously the word conflict comes from this, but it's more like afflicted. Afflicted by so many inconveniences, and with many wounds received, they were resisting. And with a great part of the day having been consumed, another ablative absolute, with a great part of the day consumed, I would say since it was being fought, they were fighting from first light, from dawn, to the 8th hour. All right, so the 8th hour is not 8 a.m., so they're not fighting for like 2 hours here. They're fighting literally for 8 hours. The 8th hour would be like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Yeah, because the 6th hour is noon. So, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's basically their 8th hour of daylight. So, they've been fighting for a long, long time. So, with a great part of the day consumed, since they'd been fighting, literally, since it was being fought, from first light to the 8th hour, how do I want to do this? Yeah. They were resisting, and they were committing nothing which was unworthy or inappropriate for them. So, even with a great part of the day consumed, since they would have been fighting from dawn till like early afternoon, and you have a couple of ways of doing this. I think you could make this cum, meaning since, kind of explaining a great part of the day. I think you can also make it cum, meaning although, going with the second half, right? Although they were fighting from dawn until the 8th hour, they did nothing which was seen unworthy to them. I can barely teach for 8 hours without getting like tired and maybe cranky, and perhaps doing something unworthy of the profession, snapping at a student or something. These people are fighting for their lives, and they could easily just have turned tail and run, but they did nothing, which was unworthy for them. So well done, Romans. Tum. Tito Balventio, qui superiore anno primum pilum duxerat, viro fortiet magnae auctoritatis, utrumque femur tragula traicitur. Quintus Lucanius, eistem ordinis, fortissime pugnans, dum circum vento filio subvenit, interficitur. Lucius Cotta legatus, omnes cohortes ordinesco ad hortans, in adversum os funda vulneratur. All right. So let's see some of the things that happened in the battle. Then we get to Tito Balventio, which is not nominative. So something happens to Titus Balventius, but he is either in the dative or the ablative. We will wait and see. But Titus Balventius, who in the previous year had led the first pile, had led the first rank. So he had been kind of like a highest ranking centurion. In the previous year had led the first rank. A brave man, and a man of great authority. Wiro here, same case as Tito Balventio. It is in apposition to that. Basically, it's you could just remove Tito Balventio and just put Wiro 14 there. 40, going with Wiro, means that we are dealing with a dative rather than an ablative, so that can help us a little bit. So he is a brave man and a man of great authority, genitive characteristic. Each leg, utrumque femur, each femur, right? Each thigh for this guy is pierced by a spear, javelin, dart, some sort of thrown object. And a not like a little like dart like you might have in like a bar or something. Not those sort of darts like a lawn dart. Like this is a weapon. So each of his thighs have been pierced by a spear. Quintus Lucanius, of the same rank, Ordinis, of the same rank, fighting very bravely, while he was helping his surrounded son, his son having been surrounded, subvenit takes a dative, bringing help to his filio circumentus, so his son is in the army with him. So while he is helping his surrounded son, Quintus Lucanius is killed. Lucius Cotta, the legate, encouraging all of the cohorts and ranks, encouraging or perhaps instructing, guiding, leading them. He is wounded by a sling or a slingshot in his turned towards face. And what that means is he's hit square in the face. So it's not if the rock from the slingshot's like coming from here, it's not kind of like this glancing blow. It hits him right in the face. His face is literally wearsome. It is turned towards the object. So there is no kind of glancing blow. It's just rock square in the face. Poor Cotta, he doesn't even want to be here in the first place, right? He'd like to be in the camp, but no. He gets hit square in the face by a rock. Lucanius dies defending his son who's been surrounded. And Titus Balventius is wounded in both legs, and he doesn't say that he dies, but he probably dies. Well, things are going, just getting worse and worse. All right, let's look at 36. His rebus per motus, Quintus Titurius, who's an idiot, cum procul ambiorigem suos cohortantem conspexissent, interpretem suum, niam Pompeum, ad eum mitit, rogatum ut sibi militibusque parcat. Disturbed by these matters, Quintus Titurius, when he had caught sight of Ambiorix at a distance, Ambiorix encouraging his own men, Quintus Titurius sends his interpreter, suum interpretem, his interpreter, Gnaeus Pompeius, to him, that is to Ambiorix, rogatum supine of purpose. He sends him to ask Ambiorix, indirect command, ask him to spare himself, to spare Titurius and his soldiers. So Quintus Titurius is like, we are clearly losing. Oh, look, there's Ambiorix. Perhaps we can discuss terms for surrender or something with him. So, okay. So he sends his interpreter, sends his messenger to Ambiorix to ask for parley. Ille, that is not Titurius, ille appellatus respondit. Si velet secum colloqui, licera. Sperare a multitudine impetrare posse, quod ad militum salutum pertineat, ipsi vero nihil noctuum iri, inque am rem se suam fidem interponera. That guy, who's not Titurius, right? So the other guy, Ambiorix, having been addressed, having been summoned, responded that indirect statement. He responded, if he wanted to meet with him, that is, if Titurius wanted to speak to him, he responded that it is permitted. He also responded that he hoped to be able to obtain, to get from the multitude, that is, from the Gauls, that which, relative pronoun, right? That which pertains to the safety of the soldiers, genitive, plural, third declension. Now, remember that Ambiorix can't just make decisions on his own. He does have to ask. He and the Gauls have to agree. His men have to agree. So if the soldiers of his don't want to stop, you can't really get them to stop. To him, ipsi here referring to Titurius, not Ambiorix. For him, indeed, nothing would be harmful. He would not be harmed. This is weird grammar. This is a future passive infinitive, which normally it doesn't exist, except, of course, when it does exist. It's actually a supine of purpose plus the passive infinitive of the verb to go. Nothing would be gone in order to harm him. So he said that basically no harm would come to him, that he would not be harmed. That is, Titurius would not be harmed. And he said that he placed his faith, he placed his word in this matter. So, you've read the last 4 books. You know as much as Titurius right now. We are caught up. We know nothing else about the plans of Ambiorix, about whether or not Germans or Gauls are coming or whatever. Ambiorix, 5-10 passages ago, said that he wanted to do what was best for the Romans. He promised them safe passage. He promised that no harm would come to them. He hoped that they could reach an agreement that would be beneficial to everybody. He only did what he did because he had to, based upon the kind of relationship he has with the rest of the Gauls. But he would give them safe passage and blah, blah, blah. He basically just said the same thing. Oh, you would like us to stop ambushing and killing you? Well, yes, we'll see what we can do. We hope that we can reach some sort of agreement. So, go ahead. Come meet with me. I promise that no harm will come to you. Are you going to go? Are you going to go meet with Ambiorix, who literally just said what he said the day before he ambushed you? Can you guess what Titurius does? Yeah. Ille cum cauta saucio communicat, si videator, pugna ut excedant et cum ambiorige una colloquantur, sperare ab eo de sua ac militum salute impetrare posse, Cotta se ad armatum hostem iturum negat, atqua in eo perseverat. So that guy, that is not Ambiorix, that is the other change of subjects. We're changing back that guy, that is Titurius, talks with a wounded Cotta. Saucio means wounded. So Cotta's been hit in the face by a rock, right? He's probably not in the best mood right now. But Titurius, who's an idiot, communicates with a wounded Cotta that if it seems best, so kind of like if Cotta agrees is kind of the idea here. If he thinks if it seems appropriate, they should talk together with Ambiorix. And I guess they should depart from the battle. Pugna ut exkedant, pugna ablative of separation with exkedant. They should depart from the battle and they should speak together with Ambiorix. And he said that he hoped to be able to gain from him, that is from Ambiorix, something concerning his safety and the soldiers' safety. So Titurius goes and tells Cotta basically what Ambiorix said. He's like, hey, he says we could go talk to him. Do you think we should go talk to him? I think it sounds like a good idea, right? Si videat, or if it seems like a good idea, we should go and meet with him. Cotta says negat, it means to say that not. He says that he will not go. Negat iterum. He denies, refuses, says that he will not go ad armatum hostem. He will not go to an armed enemy, right? We're in the middle of a fight. If Ambiorix wants to meet unarmed, like at a neutral location, cool. But Cotta refuses, or says that he will not go to an armed enemy, and he perseveres in this statement, in this fact. So Cotta's like, no, and hell no. So Cotta was convinced to leave the camp, and he's got a face full of rock to show for it. Titurius is like, hey, let's go talk with him again. And Cotta's like, no, I'm not doing it. It's not smart. He's armed, and just no. You're an idiot, Titurius. So we will stop there and see how that turns out for the Romans. Perhaps we'll be able to end this terrible ambush. So thank you for joining me again. If you have any questions, then throw them in the chat, send me an email, or just hit me up in class. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you next time. Wall later.